Well, good afternoon and welcome again to you as new parents. Wonderful to meet so many of you next door over lunch, and we've said it, you'll hear it again through this panel, but thank you indeed for the privilege of serving your family. We love it. We trust that God has brought your student here, and we will do all we can to work for that student in the year ahead, and you'll hear from our panel about all the ways we do it. I'll just give a couple of quick introductions to what's happening at Dordt right now. I mentioned this morning over 500 students. I've been president now for 12 years, and my first year as president, I think it was 360 students a decade ago, and at that time we were building up a new leadership team, and I was interviewing somebody to come in as our vice president for enrollment, and I thought, do you think that we could ever get to 500 new students at Dordt? And that person said yes, and this is the first year that that's happened. Suffice to say and be assured that whether it's 360 or 500, we believe that each one of these students is here because God wants them here, and we will look at them as individuals. We have staffed adequately to handle the growth. Unbelievable stories of new on campus are these squares apartments, the gray ones. There was a dirt field there on Valentine's Day. And if any of you have built anything new in the last 10 years, to think that a good quality facility could be moved from Valentine's Day to August 15 and have students sleeping in them. But we are thankful for our contractor, for our board of trustees who saw fit to invest in those. Over in the rec center, you saw earlier the poster boards all around. Later this fall at our Defender Days, we'll do a groundbreaking for our new dining commons. Now, that new facility will fit between this building and the campus center, and the new dining room will overlook the prairie there. We'll also be adding onto this facility. I apologize, who was in the balcony during the ceremony? By the time your kids graduate, there'll be an elevator to the balcony. I promise you, by the time your kids graduate from Dordt, 2 years from now, we're going to put an addition onto this building. What did I say? Yeah, well, some of them will graduate in 2 years, but 2 years from now, the new building will open up. That's what I meant to say. Some of your kids won't graduate for 8 years, but that's not our problem. Sorry. No, we do, one of the things that I won't say pride ourselves in, but we focus in on is making sure that the courses are available for them to graduate in 4 years or less, almost no matter what the major. And a lot of our students, by using summer classes that we teach online with the same Christian professors, many students are graduating in 7 semesters or even 6, and we'll love to help them with that. But 2 years from now, we will open a new addition that'll wrap around this building with a new recital hall, as well as a new lobby off to the side with an elevator shaft that'll go up to the balcony. So we anticipate that by the time your students graduate, if you get your tickets for graduation in the balcony, we will have an elevator. And so just a lot of good excitement happening around Dordt right now. We're just in the final phases of a capital campaign called Planting for the Future. We had set a $90 million goal. We've surpassed that, and by the end of the year, we hope to have $100 million raised for that, for a lot of these new facilities for your sons and daughters. But it's not about the fancy facilities or the numbers. It's about every one of your students as individual office bearers as well as image bearers, and we will treat them that way, and we're really thankful for the partnership. And I'm going to welcome up our Vice President for Student Success as well as our Dean of Students, Robert Taylor, to lead the panel in the process, and I'll be around for questions if need be. So, Robert.
Thank you, President Hoekstra. The panel, you can feel free to come up as I'm giving a little intro here. So yeah, my name is Robert Taylor. This is the start of my 25th year here at Dordt, so I've been here for quite a while, always in the areas of student support, and I love this place. We've spent all summer working hard, preparing for this day, and I'm so glad that it's finally here, because as soon as your students arrive, this place just comes alive, and I think there are pieces of us that come alive in new ways too. So thank you so much for bringing them. We're excited to have them here. In my role, I get to focus on partnerships with people all across campus to try and help your student do well here. A lot of that's outside of the classroom. Some of that's a little bit inside the classroom. But we're focused on trying to help your student be physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and socially healthy. And that's a mouthful of healthy. And we believe that when they do well in those areas, that they're also going to do well in their academics. There's a direct correlation there. But like I mentioned, that's a lot of areas when you start to think about your own life and trying to be healthy in all of those categories. And you also know from your own life that if you're not doing well in one of those categories, it kind of starts to pull some of the others down. So we have a whole campus full of people that are dedicated to trying to help your student in that way. And we do everything that we can to try and make sure that no one slips through the cracks. We'll go after them and we'll give them opportunities, but your student also has to take some responsibility. So all of the services are here, and like I said, we will go after them, but they've also got to want it. So you can always be encouraging your student, get involved, use the resources that are here. And if you're ever a little bit stuck and you're thinking, I'm not really sure what I should tell my student, who they should talk to, tell them to start with student services, because if we can't answer their questions or help them with what they need, we'll get them to the people who can. So like I mentioned, we've got a whole panel up here. They're going to introduce themselves and tell you 3 minutes or less, right? 3 minutes or less, about their areas. We could all probably talk for an hour about our areas, but we'll try and keep it brief. At the end, we'll have an opportunity for you all to ask questions. So you can be thinking about questions now, but also note that we will stick around afterwards down here in front. So if you have a question that's maybe more specific to your student, maybe that would be the time. And I think most of us will also be going over to the parent social, which happens in the Diego right next door, right after this. You can ask us questions there. We're not going to run away. We're here to serve you. We're here to get to know you. So without further ado, Sam, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about Campus Ministries?
Great. Thank you, Robert. My name is Sam Ashmore, and I get to serve as campus pastor. So what that means is I get to help lead our campus ministries team, and we do all things chapel and praise and worship and small groups and pastoral care and a number of the worship gatherings and services that we have on campus, along with our different mission initiatives and opportunity for service that we have in our surrounding community. And I guess 3 things I want you parents to know about campus ministries and what your students can expect from us is in everything that we do, every event, every program, every pastoral meeting that we have, we want to be invitational. And so, and there's really 2 reasons for that. We believe that's the posture of Jesus. He says, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden. And so in every service that we have, we want to invite all of our students. You'll notice that chapel is not required, but so many of our students come, and so that's part of it. Is we believe that's the posture of Jesus. And the number 2, it helps train them. They're coming here and they get to make those decisions to grow in their faith, and they're not going to be forced to go to church or forced to do those things. And we hope that they will begin to learn to choose those themselves. Number 2, we want to be student driven. That's the best part of my job. Is college students get to drive so much of what we're doing. They're the ones in the eyes and the ears and the dorms and apartments, and campus ministries is going to support, guide, encourage, empower students to get to speak into the chapel series that we have. Students lead our small groups. Students lead our worship teams. You saw it this morning at the welcome celebration. Students lead our mission trips over spring break, and we really want to be student-driven so we can train and equip the next generation, as President Hoekstra said, to continue to go into the world for Christ-centered renewal. And then number 3 is we value presence over program. And so we have all of our programs, right? We don't have anything on Sunday morning because we so value the local church. We want your students to be involved in a local church. We have shuttles that if they don't have a car or they wake up late in the winter and don't want to scrape their windshield or don't have time, shuttles will take them to local churches in the area. And then we have over 30 different small groups that meet on Sunday nights. We have Monday night prayer, Wednesday chapel, Thursday night praise and worship. We have all different programs. But more than we value each of those, we want to teach and train our students to be present and aware of God and how He's at work in their lives. We want to teach and train them to be present to one another, and then also to be present to themselves, to pay attention to how God is communicating to them. And we want to be present to your student. And so one of the biggest things we all do in campus ministries is offer pastoral care. Because I imagine in the 4 years or 2 years or how many ever years your student is here, hopefully they want to grow in their faith, and we want to help them do that. They'll probably go through something difficult and hard, and we want to help them process that. And we want to be a resource to them in order to meet with them and disciple them and train them. And so we get to offer pastoral care and be that safe place on campus.
My name is Rose Postma, and I am representing the Academic Enrichment Center. Your students will probably refer to it as the AEC. And we handle all things sort of academic support. We really are monitoring the academic health of the entire campus, because our goal is that your student who starts here today walks across this stage. And so we take that really seriously to help them academically. Today, every one of your students is academically very healthy. And that's wonderful. And so today is always a weird day for me because no one really wants to hear from me, but that's okay. I'll give you some good things. We handle in our office any academic alerts that a student is getting. We work a lot with the athletic coaches as well as we're monitoring people for their eligibility. And we administer all the academic accommodations on campus through our office. But where your student is probably going to connect with us the most is in tutoring. We offer peer tutoring for free for almost all core classes and almost all major classes. It gets a little dicey when you get into some of those upper level engineering classes for us to find people that have taken the class and are still here on campus. Students can come down and sign up with us anytime. My recommendation as you're looking over your student's schedule this weekend is to talk with them and identify which class you think they might need help in, and come on down to see us and get signed up for a session. You can always pull back on support, but it's a lot harder to start that support in November. We're located in the lower level of the library, or you can access us through the hallway on the lower level of the student center that leads from the grill. And we're open pretty much all the time that students need us. About 8, we are there 8 a.m. till about 3, 4, 5 p.m. And then we have our student workers who are also there until about 9 p.m. on business days. There is a couple of I'll give you some little tips. I don't tell this to everyone, so you're getting the inside scoop. There's 2 things that we never see or almost never see from students who are struggling academically. And the first one is we almost never see students who have attended every single class period and every single lab. And the second is we never see students who have turned in every piece of assignments on time. And so when your student is calling you at 11 p.m. at night, like I did to my parents, from a West Hall bathroom, you can ask them, are you doing those 2 things? And then another thing that you can do, once again, this is the top secret information. All the schedules for the semester are out there, the academic schedule, the breaks, the exam schedule. And you can do your student a huge favor by helping them schedule their semester in terms of when they book flights, when they book appointments that they might need, and really prioritize that time in the classroom, because we know that is one of the key elements to success. And your mother-in-law probably is planning a Christmas gathering, but also emergencies happen. And so we try to save any of those absences for that. So if you can plan around that, by all means, this is the time to do that. The last day of exams is Tuesday, December 19. So make sure you're looking at that. Your student may be done earlier than that. You can figure that out. But that can really, really help them and benefit them to make sure they're there in class every single time.
See if this one works. I'll take it back. I'm Beth Boss. I've served in student health and counseling since 2007. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. I, like Rose, know that all of your students today are hoping that they don't have to come and see us, but we're here for a reason, and we want you to have information to help them do that if they need to. Our office is located in the basement of the campus center, in the DeYager Center, where you'll be shortly. If your student goes to the grill, and they will, our office is right in the right-hand side of that hallway by the elevator that's there. We've got signage out there, but if they can't find us, you can let them know that's where we are. And we are a little bit off the beaten path for a reason. That was by design. We wanted to provide some privacy and confidentiality for our students that come to our area regularly. As I said a moment ago, we're open 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. There are no fees for being seen in our area. We provide a variety of medical tests. We have medical equipment for them. On page 16 and 17 in your Parent Defender Handbook, you have a list of our services there. Our staff is comprised of 2 licensed counselors, 2 RNs, and we have limited access to a nurse practitioner, and we have a consulting physician at Sioux Center Health. The thing I really want you to know is that, like you, we want your student to be successful. And we know that they need to be physically healthy and emotionally healthy and spiritually healthy to do that. And when your student comes to our area, we're not just looking at their sore throat or the rash that's on their arm. We're checking in with them to see, how are you doing? How are your classes doing? How's your roommate? Have you been to chapel? And our office, or our department, is what's known as an integrated department. We have counseling and healthcare in the same area, and sometimes we take that hand of that student and we lead them down the hall to where the counselor might be, and sometimes the counselor does the same thing for us. When your student leaves our area, you can know that most of them are going to be leaving with written instructions for what they need to do to get better. We want to get them back in class as soon as possible. We will follow up with them by email. We'll arrange for them to have another visit within that week. We like to be sure that when Friday comes, that those things that we were concerned about through the week that we've seen, that by Friday we feel like they're going to make it through the weekend. And if not, we're going to get them back in and move them on to another place if we feel that they need more. I think that's it. I will be here later. Well, I think this whole panel will be, but I'll be down in that corner. If any of you have anything unique to your child that you want to have a conversation about and we haven't had opportunity to do that before, please meet me there.
My name is Derek Butine, and I serve in Student Services as the Associate Dean of Students and the Director of Residence Life. So I oversee the Residence Life program, housing, student activities, and campus security. My goal for your student is to be connected on campus. And one of the ways that we do this is that we intentionally design our residence halls and housing placements so that they're getting to know a wide variety of people, not just the people who are similar to them. So we have engineers living on the same wing as education majors, and soccer players with choir members, and so on and so forth. We think that there's something really valuable about those interactions and getting to know somebody different from you with a different story, and it just really creates a vibrant culture within the wing. So that's a very intentional thing that we do. Right now, I believe your students are meeting with their RA for the very first time, and hopefully you've all had a chance to meet them as well. Their RA is a great resource for them. So they're going to facilitate weekly wing events for your student, and they're also the first point of contact for issues and concerns that come up. So I just spent the last 2 weeks with them in training, and they're an awesome group of kids. But they got to meet with all of the departments that are represented here and hear from them. So they're trained to be to refer students to these departments, to connect them with the people up here, if, in the event that concerns or issues come up. So please encourage your student to talk to an RA if those concerns come up. We're also very intentional about student events on campus. So like I said, the RA plans a weekly wing event for your student. Sometimes that looks like making pancakes in the hallway at midnight, and sometimes it looks like gathering, the wing together, and they're going to go to Thursday night worship together. But those are very intentional to kind of build that community. They're also planning building events once a month, And then student activities plans an event every single week. So there is always something to do on campus, and attending these events is a great way for them to get connected with other students. Another thing my area does is we help navigate roommate issues. Believe it or not every roommate pair is the perfect match. And in any relationship, there are issues and concerns that come up. We're here to help them navigate those issues. Our first reaction isn't going to be, okay, you have an issue, let's separate you and find you different rooms. We're going to walk with them through that. We're going to help them navigate those challenges. So when I meet with those students, the first thing that I ask them is, have you had a conversation with your roommate about it? And often the answer is no. So we're going to coach them through those conversations. We're going to walk with them through that. We're going to follow up with it. And sometimes the answer is yes, we do actually need to find you a different living situation, and that's good and okay, and we're happy to facilitate that. But we think that there's something valuable about confronting that situation and working through it, because there's life skills that are developed in that they're going to use here and they're going to use down the road too. Sometimes there are situations and concerns that come up that might be physical or mental health related. We partner really well with the other departments on campus, along with local agencies and our hospitals in the area. We're confident that we can provide the best care for your student, but our goal is always to get your student connected with you. And often that looks like us encouraging them to contact you with a phone call or something like that. We'll work with them, we will work with you, we'll work with these other resources on campus. But yeah, we want to get them in touch with you because you know them best. So we're excited to get to know your students, and like Robert said, student services is kind of that catch-all. If they have a question, please send them to our office.
Hello, I'm Abby Foreman. I serve as a professor in the social work department, and I also serve as the dean of the social sciences division. As a faculty member, I want you to be assured that we love what we're doing here. We love to be teaching, and we love your students. And what that looks like in the classroom is, of course, being relational with them and getting to know them in the classroom, and also expecting good work from them as well. And so we want to be in that relationship with them. When there are times where a student may be struggling a bit, I just want to reiterate that there's a lot of connections between a faculty member who may be noticing something in a classroom and then talking with Rose or student services as well, so that we can all make sure that a student gets the support that they need, and to determine what needs to happen. One of the other great things about the job that I get to do is, as the dean, is working with faculty and continuing to live into our sort of vibrant faith as faculty members, and how that then connects to our teaching and our content areas. Because we recognize you can go to a lot of different universities for some similar content, but that really diving in deep to understand what does this mean for us as Christians living in a world that's been created by God, that's marred by sin, and what's our responsibility. And so we get to do that as a faculty community. We were just doing that last week even, as a community, determining how do we do that best? How does that live through us and our love for the Lord? How does that live through us in our classrooms as well? I'll leave it there because Ethan's also a faculty member, so he'll have more to say when I get to him.
We'll just keep this one. Okay. My name is Amy Westra, and I serve in the Career Development Center as the director there. And our mission in the Career Center is twofold. It's really to start with encouragement, encouraging your students in their vocational and career development. And then picking up on that a step further is to equip them with the tools that they are going to need to successfully transition from Dordt into the workforce or into graduate school. So it might feel a little early for you to be hearing from me, thinking it's their first day, what are we doing here? But from day one, we care about the end product here, and we want to make sure that they are getting where they want to go, and that's a part of what my office exists for. We are a full-service career center, so some of the opportunities for your students to get involved are individual appointments. That's where my coworker and I spend the majority of our time. We meet individually with students, everything from students who are unsure about their career path or their choice of major, to working on those tools, the things that matter for finding an internship or a job, the resume, the cover letter, those tactical things. But we know that every student's journey is different. Everyone's dreams and goals and wiring is different. And so those individual appointments is really a big part of what we do and how we serve your students. We also partner with faculty to do workshops and presentations in the classroom, helping students to make those connections between what they're learning in the classroom and how that will play out in the workforce. We also have a variety of online resources, knowing that we're not available, at 2 a.m. when your student has their crisis of, I don't want to be a teacher. Well, we're probably not going to be able to talk with you at 2 a.m., but there's a bunch of online resources that are available to them through a couple of different sources. They're in your parent handbook, and the students certainly will know about them as well. Let's see, we also have an online job board. Currently, there are 10,000 jobs and 2,500 internships posted on there. So if they are looking for something, they can find something. And our office certainly will help them to navigate that process of narrowing that down, right? That's a lot to choose from. So let's see, what else is part of that online thing too is really staying relevant with what's happening. And we know that students are using AI and they're using ChatGPT to find jobs and internships. Some of them do it well, some of them do it terribly. So we do things to help them navigate what is responsible use of some of this technology that exists that can be beneficial and navigating that well. We host online or on-campus events through job fairs, internship fairs, having employers come to campus and do interview days, all of those kinds of things our office is involved with. And do we know if it's working? Actually, we do. You've heard about the career outcome rate. Every year we publish that and promote it well because it's consistently high here at Dordt. We're on 15 plus years of over 95% of our students finding employment or enrolling in graduate school within 6 months of graduation. So there's really good chances that your students are going to end up in the place that they want to be, and we're here to help them with that. So finally, I just want to give a few pointers to you of how you can partner with us to help your students in their career development. First is just simply knowing that we exist, that we're a valuable campus resource for you and for your students. So familiarize yourself with what we offer. Again, there's information in the handbook there. And encourage your students to visit us. Encourage them to visit us early, not waiting until May of their senior year. We will still help them then, but it's a lot more beneficial if they start early and we keep working on these materials throughout their time here. And then finally, if you are in a place of employment and looking for young talent to fill roles in your companies that you work for or maybe that you own, let us know about those opportunities so that we can promote them to our students and continue to build that network of opportunities for them.
I'm last. I'm Ethan Brew, and I'm the campus nerd. So every campus should have one. So no, actually, I get to serve as dean for Technology and Applied Sciences program. And I'm not going to add a lot more to what is said because in some ways it's redundant. We care deeply about student success here. Sort of. I think I say that because we also care about being there when students don't succeed as well. And I have to say that if they succeeded all the time, I don't know what they'd be learning. There is a richness in this place where students are pushed to where they won't succeed. And I think that's good. That's from a teacher's perspective. But it's in a place where that learning happens with both support and encouragement. And my role is to not only teach, but to learn alongside them. There's no better place to teach than a place where you get fellow Christ followers to learn from and learn with. And that's that's my role. I've been teaching here for 23 years in the engineering department, and now get to both lead and teach. So.
Thank you, panel. All right, at this point, we want to open up to any questions that you all have. And basically, you ask your question, and we'll figure out who the right person is to answer it. So are there any questions at this point? Raise your hand if you've got one. I see one right here. We're going to grab a microphone for you so that... So if you need a parent handbook, Alicia has them for you.
Hi. Coming from the West Coast and seeing worldly influences and visiting other Christian, quote-unquote Christian schools, what is Dordt doing to ensure the quality of Christ first as students come with maybe different ideas? And how do you approach that?
Sure, I'll start. No, I'll start. It's a great question. And hopefully your student, in terms of choosing Dordt, has heard some of these things before. We are the only college that I am aware of whose board of trustees interviews our faculty, and our professional staff before they're ever hired. And in our faculty's case, again after 2 years and again after 8 years. I do not, I can tell you this, I do not personally interview every adjunct that teaches in our tutorials. So whoever's teaching our drumming, our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Leah Zeidema, does, but I interview otherwise every adjunct faculty as well. And my primary questions to them is, who is Christ to you? And how are you going to make Christ come alive to your students in whatever you teach? And whether that's engineering or theology doesn't matter to me in terms of that. And so no one has been hired as a faculty member who hasn't answered those two questions very specifically. And then in addition, we go over some of the cultural issues of the day, primarily gender and sexuality is asked of every faculty member and every professional staff. Have you read our policy on gender and sexuality, which is very basic. We believe there are two genders. We believe marriage is for a man and a woman. We believe sex is for marriage. It comes down to that. And everyone who teaches or works with your student has answered those questions. And not only that they agree to live that way, that they agree to not advocate for others to live that way. And so beyond that, others can talk about other aspects, but that's a macro level. And the other thing is at Dordt, we don't have tenure. So you've heard that in American higher education, some professors have tenure. And they don't, and it doesn't, you can ask two professors whether, I've had a request I've worked here for 27 years one way or the other. I've heard our professors say it would be neat if we had tenure, but like twice. They like the accountability that comes in a Christian community with having that accountability, and it's a mutual accountability from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think I'll just speak into that saying, it's not tenure that would keep faculty in my department here. It's the gift of getting together and wrestling with what does our discipline mean in the context of the Word of God. And it's so exciting to be part of a department like that when we actually do our continuing education, what we discuss is those very things. What does it mean to do our work before the face of God, to be obedient and responsible to what He's called us to do, to shape and form, and to have 10 faculty members all excited about? That's the direction we're all heading. That's what keeps us here, and I see that again and again each year. So that's what how I would respond to it. It's an experience thing, and it's a great space to be in. So,
other questions? There have to be questions. Oh, here we go. Red shirt.
Okay, so I've heard some, not from here, but where students maybe are doing poorly academically and maybe they don't even go to school the next year, but they pretend to go to school the next year kind of thing. What kind of communication can we expect as parents as far as how they're doing in their grades?
I can take that a little bit. You will not receive any communication from my office or or specific faculty in terms of grades, that's going to go all to your student. And so this is a really great time to have those conversations with your student of what does your conversation as a parent and a student look like? What do you want to receive from them? What are you going to be looking for? Because we don't typically get involved in that. If you call me and ask, I can't reveal that. There are some forms you can fill out. It's pretty rare, but that does happen. So this is really, we want that to be on your student, and they're going to take ownership of their grades and their communication with you, and we will be talking with them as well, but what they take to you, we want you guys to have that conversation.
Yeah, I'll add to that how many of you have heard of FERPA? It's the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So that is a regulation that we have to follow coming from the federal government, and it's a privacy regulation for your student. But we do have ways that we can work with you in getting the information that you need. For instance, if your student's in a situation where they've got a crisis going on, they've got a disciplinary thing going on, all that we need to do is get the student on the phone at the same time that you're on the phone, and we do a conference call. I do that from my office all the time for both good things and for not quite as good things. But hopefully we won't get any of those calls. But so we do have to comply with that, and we're actually happy to comply with that because, as Rose kind of pointed out there, it does create a better mechanism for communication, or we hope it does, between you and your student, that before you leave, they know what your expectation is for communication. And I mean, ultimately, at the end too, you can say, I would like to see your grades, and then you can work that out with them. But so keep that in mind, that we do have to follow the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, but we're on your team. We want to do everything that we can to have as great of communication network as we can. What other questions? I see one here.
So in regards to the grades, is there ongoing grades? Because like in high school, you could see how it's doing throughout the year based off what their test scores, et cetera, are. My daughter, in their first year of college, it was like, I have no idea what my grade is until they've completed it. Is that the same here, or is there a way to monitor the progress? And I know that's a communication between me and my child, but is there a way for them to monitor where they are at in their class?
Yes. It will vary between classes and professors. Every course on campus has an online home in Canvas is what it's called, and a good number of professors are putting grades in there really regularly, so your students will see kind of an updated grade kind of system. There are professors who choose to not use that grading feature all the time, and so we always say don't rely on Canvas, be having conversations with your professors. I've never had a student go to a professor and say, hey, can you tell me how I'm doing? And that they don't get some report back. So once again, they should really feel empowered to have those conversations if they don't feel like they're sure. Definitely have them go to their professor's office during office hours and say, how am I doing? And once again, they should be also monitoring their own progress in Canvas pretty regularly.
All right, other questions?
Robert, can you speak to that really quick on that, on our academic alert system and what that is? We talked about it. Can you spell that out so parents have the same lingo that their kids would be receiving?
Yeah, I've been asked to share what the academic alert system is. Basically, our faculty are watching your student in class for any changes. If they see them looking tired in class, maybe they're not participating like they once were. Maybe their grades are all of a sudden starting to drop a little, or assignments aren't being turned in, or they're coming late, or. If they see a change, then they use this online form called the Academic Alert, where they'll fill out what's going on, and that will go to the student, and it will also go to the student success team, which meets weekly and looks through all of those academic alerts and then signs someone from the team to reach out to each student and try and help them figure out how to get back on track, what's in the way. Because sometimes when the academics start to slip a little, like I was talking about earlier with the physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and social health, sometimes when the academics start to slip, it's because when we have a conversation, we find out, oh yeah, something's going on with my grandpa's health back home, or a high school friend just found out this, or they have complex lives, as we all know. And so at that point, then we'll try and get them to whatever service they need so that we can keep them on track academically. So Academic Alert is a beautiful tool that we use for that. And within the alert, faculty also have a place where they can make recommendations to the students. So not only will they know, hey, this last test didn't go so well, or hey, I haven't been seeing you in class, but they'll give them concrete instructions. Here's some things that you can do. And I would add to the end of every single Academic Alert, come see me in my office if I was a professor, because they want to interact with your students. And as someone said earlier about the grades, if your student has any questions about how they're doing, if they have any questions about the course, our faculty are here and they want to get to know your students. It's one of the things that makes Dordt special. So help your student live into that and take advantage of that in that way. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add to that a little bit, because I think this is one of the things that makes Dordt really distinct. Because, okay, what do academic alerts have to do with campus ministries and pastoral care? I can't tell you how many times where someone goes in, you know, for an academic alert because they've failed a test or skipped class, and there's a breakup, there's a death, and then whatever's going on in the student's life, it's deeper than the grade. And then I get to sit in my office and have that conversation. And that's where transformation and healing takes place. Yes, we want the grades to get better, and there's just some things you have to do and choose to do in hard times. But more than we want the grade, we want what's the root of what's going on, and let's bring healing and transformation there. And that's how this group works together. There's the academic alert, and they come to my office, and I meet with them. And then at times I walk them over to Beth's office, and they meet ongoing counseling there. And that's just how we care about the whole person and your whole child. And so that's one of the best things about working together on kind of this team and how we work together.
Was there a question in the back? Did I see? Here we go.
Hi, thanks. Sorry, going back to the privacy question, I guess this might be really obvious, but I wanted to hear it from you guys. If something were to happen to my son while he's here, he's in a car accident or he gets sick and he's admitted to the hospital, obviously he's over the age of 18, so I guess I'm wondering is the school going to contact us? Will the hospital contact us? What happens in terms of like being able to help with that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. That's a good clarifying question about the privacy. If your student is in danger in any way, we get to call you, and we will call you. If we know about what's going on, we'll call you as soon as possible. We'll call you at 2 o'clock in the morning. I hope we never have to do that, but we will do that. We want you to know as soon as possible if anything is emergent. So yeah, rest assured in that. Now, if your student is headed to the ER, they banged up their elbow and they're going to need stitches, then what we're probably going to say to them is, hey, are you going to reach out to your parents? And we might not necessarily follow up if it's something pretty minor, as long as we know that your student has followed up. But anything that's above the scratch, you're probably going to hear from us. And if they've got something medically going on that's going to last a little while, then this whole group gets involved. How do we support them? If it's an athlete and they just messed up their knee and they're no longer going to be playing in the season, we know that their mental health is probably going to be in a harder spot. So we're going to make sure that we've reached out to them to say, hey, can we get you into counseling? Can we get you into pastoral care? We know that their academics might take a little bit of a shot if they have to be out for a while because they're having surgery and they've got meds and all those sorts of things. So Rose is going to reach out. Beth is going to reach out about the medical things, and on and on and on. So it's a village that's coming together, and you are central to that, and we understand that, and we would never try to take your place, but we will do our best here to support your student in any way that we can. Thanks so much for asking that clarifier.
Can I add one thing there? Well, I'm gonna add two things. In our office, if one of us feels that your student would benefit from being seen by somebody at Sioux Center Health, it's pretty common for us to say, do you need to have a conversation with your parents about this before you make that appointment? We want you to be in the loop and know what's going on with them. If it's something serious that I think they may not be able to communicate very well, we're gonna bring the phone in the room and have the conversation with you, with your student on the line. I neglected to mention earlier, this is a nuts and boltsy thing, but if you haven't given your student a copy of your family's health insurance card, please consider doing so. I think it's been mentioned here about calling at 2 a.m. If they're seen at Sioux Center Health or if they're seen in any hospital in the area, they are going to need that health insurance card. We don't need it here on campus, but your student will need it for care off campus. And it's great if they know how to use it. And for you also to look at that, if you're from an area, or if your insurance requires that you have permission to be seen out of your area, make that call today or on Monday, and just let them know, hey, our student is now in Iowa, what do they need to do to be seen there, and have that permission in place for them to get care if they need it.
Got another question here.
I'm just going to follow up with the whole privacy thing, one more thing. If we have a durable power of attorney in place, is there some place on campus that we need to file that so that you know that it supersedes FERPA?
Sure. Power of attorney, would that be in your office, Beth, or? Probably the registrar's office. I'll tell you what, can we maybe talk afterwards? We'll make sure that we get you a good response to that. That's the first time anyone's ever asked that. Thank you. I see that we're starting to get tight on time. Is there maybe somebody that's got a burning question? Otherwise, keep in mind, we'll be down here and we'll be across the way during the parent social too. But is there a final question? Okay. All right. Well, yes. This is Dr. Leah Zeidema, our Vice President for Academic
because the privacy
Affairs.
thing has come up a few different times, I wanted to go back to that a little bit on the grades piece of it too. So the parent had asked about, you know what, first of all, will a student know more than just at the end of the semester how they're doing in a class? We actually have it in our faculty handbook that major assessments need to be spread out across the semester. So a student should be getting feedback during that time. And then the other thing that our faculty members could perhaps weigh in on a little bit more as well is we are in a world where sometimes there are bumps in relationships, and we want to be able to help students through that. So if they need coaching on a conversation with a professor and how to talk through that, there are a lot of different ways they could do that. They could certainly go to student services, they could go to their faculty advisor, and there are actually formal processes that we could work through. If Abby or Ethan wants to just tell a little bit more about what that looks like when a student comes to them with a concern, that might be helpful.
Okay, this one works. Okay. Yes, we want them to come to talk to us, and also recognizing that that can be intimidating, especially maybe if a few assignments haven't been handed in, so they can get kind of good about, you know, skirting you on the sidewalk if they're in that spot. But that is, maybe you can just assure them, professors, this is part of what we're doing, and that happens a lot for very different reasons, that there should not be shame, that they don't need to feel overly guilty. Just come and talk to us, help us understand what's going on, where are the sticking points for you, and how can we get you back on track? Do we need grace with deadlines, those sorts of things. So just really want, you know, that would be a really good thing for, if they're coming or talking to you, to just encourage them to go to the faculty member. The other thing I was thinking about as we thought about or talk about majors is that they may start wondering if they're in the right major. And that can be, there are many people they can talk to about that, but they also have started to develop a relationship with their advisor who is in a major. And so that could be another place too where you can assure them, we are all on the same team. We will not be mad at you if you go to education and you started in social work, that our the primary interest is that they feel that they have, followed God's leading into the right major. And again, just encouraging them to talk with us, even though they may be feeling a little bit nervous about that conversation.
Okay, I'd like to close this piece with a prayer, and then we've got some giveaways that we'll do after that. But if you could pray with me, and I'm going to start just by reading what we sang over the students earlier. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with you. In the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. He is for you. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Dear God, thank you so much for being here with us today. Please go before our students and all the places that they will go, into their apartments, their dorm rooms, their classes, their clubs, their sports, their fine arts. Go before them and prepare a place for them. Lord, it's the desire of our heart, and we know it's the desire of yours that they would flourish. May this be a community where they can flourish. Help us, both parents and employees, to know how to come around these students and help them be physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and socially healthy. And Lord, may you be glorified in all of this. We lay it at your feet. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your grace. We pray it all in the name of Christ Jesus. Amen. Melody. And maybe we could say thank you to the panel.
Alrighty, hopefully you all found that helpful. Of course, I am Melody Bima and Alicia Bowers. You've seen us at the welcome table. We are here as a resource for you, so feel free to drop a note to us and let us know if there's any questions that you might have. I know it has been a pleasure to work with you through the Facebook page and through our parent portal this past year, trying to make sure we get all your questions answered, so you're good to go today. So now we get to have some fun stuff. All right, so when you came to the registration table, you were given a yellow ticket. So dig in the bottom of your purse, in that pocket, wherever you stored it, get that out. And we're going to call some numbers here. We have a bunch of things up front here. So if I call your number, you're welcome to come up and pick what you would like. One note, if you choose a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, you are welcome to exchange it at the bookstore for a different size, but you will have to stay with that item. So, okay? All right, so here we go. First number, 349256. 349256. Anyone have that number? There she is. Good job. All righty, here we go. The next number, 349287.